Morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. I'm your co-host, Trey Holiday, and it is Wednesday, September 9th. As you can see, we are still out on location this week, chopping it up right here at the Liberty Bank building, and y'all know, throwing it on over to my guy, Big O. What up, baby?
I'm catching it. What's up, Trey?
How are you?
Trey Holiday. I'm fantastic. Feels good to be back here in the Central District of Seattle, kind of where it all started, here on 24th and Union in the Liberty Bank building. Very excited today. We have Dr. Daudi Ave.
Yes.
He's I guess we could kind of throw in there, AKA the hip hop professor. And he's going to be talking about a new book that he's written. It's called Emerald Streets, a history of hip hop in Seattle, and some of the other things that he's doing around the culture. We've got lots of clips in here today. I was downtown yesterday at Piroshky, talked to them. It's been downtown. There's a lot of businesses that are struggling there and everything else. And before we pop into the headlines, I want to give a big shout out to all of our viewers out there. We got a lot of viewers all over the place, especially we got a growing audience and really around the population in the state of Washington. So big shout out to everybody in Snohomish County and Pierce County, up at Everett and Tacoma, all the way over there in eastern Washington, Spokane, Yakima, Vegas, Tri-Cities, and down in the Rose City of Portland. We appreciate you. This is also a good opportunity right here to tag and share the stream with a friend. Let somebody know what's going on and what's happening around here.
Absolutely. What's happening around here?
Yeah.
We keep our finger on the pulse, man.
Yeah, we got it. Like I said, we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. But one thing that's really important is the air quality is still bad. There's lots of smoke in the air, and there was plenty of fires last night. Some dramatic fire footage out of Sumner, Washington as well. So we want to remind people that, one, if you don't have to go outside today, don't go outside. Please keep your windows and things rolled up. You was already supposed to kind of be wearing a mask out there, but you go out and definitely want to protect yourself. And let's look out for our families and friends that might have respiratory issues, asthma, things like that. Because the smoke is no joke. And actually, this first clip that we came across right here is from King 5, and they talk about how the smoke can actually make COVID even worse.
We've learned about the connection between wildfire smoke and the coronavirus. The CDC says smoke can make you more prone to COVID infection. That's because smoke can irritate your lungs, it can cause inflammation, and it affects your immune system. So what can you do to protect yourself? Many people are already wearing masks. The problem is cloth masks like this one won't protect you from wildfire smoke. They do help slow the spread of COVID by blocking droplets as you exhale, but they cannot filter out the tiny particles in smoke as you inhale. Maybe you've seen these around, N95 respirators. These will protect your lungs from smoke and are able to catch the tiny bits of dust and ash, but they can be hard to find because a lot of people are using these during the pandemic. Also, they've been in short supply because doctors, nurses, and first responders really do need them. A study this summer anticipating colliding disasters of a pandemic and fires examined how wildfire smoke and coronavirus might interact. The study found that a moderate amount of smoke has the potential to amplify a COVID outbreak, a situation that now blankets much of the Pacific Northwest. Ted Land, King 5 News.
One back to you, Ron.
Well, you know, it's 2020, so if it's not one thing, it's another. But we definitely want to take this serious, you know, as far as the air quality. And actually, we planned to be outside most of this week because the weather was cooperative. We planned to be outside, but we also wanted to be able to try to set a good example for our viewing public. Plus, they would be concerned. You know, our viewers love us. Yeah. They'd be concerned. Why are you guys out there? I can hear my mom and them, boy, why are you out there in that smoke?
Yeah,
you know you ain't supposed to. You got Bobby Stills and Daryl breathing that smoke out there.
Yeah.
So, you know, but the next thing is I talked to schools back in session, as you know, school-age kids. I talked to a school board director for District 7, Brandon Hersey, yesterday, and actually the full interview is about 30 minutes. It's going to go up across the Converge Media platforms later on today. But this clip right here, I asked Director Hersey, what's the biggest challenges, now that school's back in, what's the biggest challenges that the school district is facing right now? And he says, teens versus Zoom. what are some of the places, some of the gaps, some of the challenges that we're facing right now?
Teams versus Zoom. That's a big challenge that we're focusing on. I think that, we have found that there are many flaws in all of the systems that we're utilizing. And quite frankly, I am in favor of giving permission to use whatever platform is going to help a teacher reach their student. And we have had really robust conversations around the efficacy of Zoom versus Teams. Again, access to technology and broadband, making sure that internet connections are stable, right? There are so many challenges that are just coming from the devices and the equipment and getting folks logged on. And to be fair, those are growing pains, Whenever, we start the beginning of the school year, there's always going to be hiccups, but we cannot rest on our laurels in this sense. We have to lean heavily on our tech department and on our entire system in terms of making sure that students primarily, but also families and parents have access to the support that they need, right? Like when I think about what we are specifically doing to make sure that folks have access to that support, it comes in the way of making sure that they have access to the training videos and how to utilize this stuff in their home language. It comes to the fact that we are still handing out hotspots and internet coupons that folks can access to get broadband. It comes from making sure that every child has a device, whether it be a laptop or an iPad. But we all know that no matter how well we are doing all of these things, there are still going to be children that fall through the cracks, unfortunately. That's where equity comes in, making sure that we are reaching those kids. And so, again, if you know not only about your child, but another family that is struggling, make sure that you are not only reaching out to your PTA, your principal, but also your school board director.
All right. So, it's just going to be interesting. The thing is that it's something new almost for everybody. And like I said, in the full interview, it's about 30 minutes there. It'll be up later on today. He talked about Seattle Public Schools is trying a lot of different things to normalize the process for the students there. We also talked about the big gap that there is in students and how a family in maybe a more affluent neighborhood in Seattle, they might welcome this technology, and everything else, but you might have another family in, say, the south end of Seattle, where the parents are essential workers. They're not there. They're not really familiar with the technology and everything else. So we talked about equity and making things equitable in the process.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I think a lot of parents have at the forefront of their minds in terms of ensuring that their children are properly prepared for all of the technology and that they can try to help as much as possible. I think it's something that I take in. I'm happy that my sons, like their institutions, are very much adjusting in a really good way. So, Amiri's now been this is like his third week of high school, and he's like, he's like, all right, I got the vibe of this, I'm in the hang of this. He's getting it now. So it's great to see him have his routine now that makes sense for him. And he's like, I'm with it, so that's good.
All right, we'll check back. I saw Amijah Smith earlier, about 45 minutes. That's the thing, being here in the Central District, you're bumping to everybody. So, and she said that basically I'll be talking to her to get her perspective as far as things are rolling out. She's a big education advocate. Next up here, we've been keeping this conversation going about this uptick in gun violence in our community across the city. And I got a chance to sit down with Dom Davis, Coach Dom, yesterday of Community Passageways. And again, long conversation. Actually, Nikki Barron, producer Nikki Barron, she led the interview. And so we'll put that up later on today as well. But this clip right here, he talked about they're trying to focus on creating economic opportunities for young people, saying that in creating economic opportunities, people basically don't want to go and shoot each other, because they've got a sustainable, they see a pathway forward. So they're trying to teach people about buying houses and accumulating wealth and everything else as just another way of a deterrent to be able to have young people make wise choices, especially around guns and gun violence.
Today, you ain't gonna get the money you want and have the success you want by shooting and killing each other. You go into the penitentiary and you're dying. Nobody wins. Those are the messages we're going to push out here into the community. And then we're going to say, here's an opportunity. We're going to present some opportunities for you to start making your own money and start owning your own properties and owning your own businesses. What helps people put down guns and what helps people to stop shooting each other is when they have wealth and resources. Every community that has an abundance of wealth and resources doesn't have a whole bunch of violence, period. It's data driven. It's science. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows that. So how do we generate our own wealth? We have to sit down and revolve and put our money through our own community. And I'm going to go ahead, and my team is going to go ahead, and other organizations I'm connected to are going to go ahead and start putting resources that we got access to into our community like we already are, but we want to take it to the next level. We want a substantial amount of money to pour into our communities. That's why I just got off another call just today, too. I'm working on creating Black financial institutions. We're working on creating a Black credit union. I've been talking to CEOs of credit unions, and they're giving me a lot of good input, and they want to help do this. I'm gonna be talking to some more Black institutions from the East Coast, and we're moving forward on this. We have to create our own financial institutions so our young people that got these guns that are out here gangbanging can actually be brought in and shown, we're going to teach you how to buy a house. We're going to help you get a job, and we're going to teach you how to buy your first piece of property. We're going to teach you how to open up your first business. When you have a purpose to wake up to every day and a plan to wake up to every day, you don't wake up and pick up the gun, you pick up the plan. And that's what happens, right? Or we need to have resources to grow wealth. When somebody has a 401k with 500 or 600 grand sitting in it and can go to their bank account and withdraw 10 grand whenever they need to, I promise you they ain't out here gangbanging. I promise you that. I promise you they ain't here shooting nobody that look like them or anybody, period. I promise you that. So what is really perpetuating this? Poverty is perpetuating this.
All right, so there's Coach Dom. And Bobby Stills was just saying upset, man. Coach Dom was always so passionate about his messaging. But I mean, it takes a lot of passion to really tackle this issue of gun violence that's been going on for way too long in our community.
Yeah, and this is why it cannot be relegated to someone's position, right? When we talk about this ecosystem of what community building really looks like, so much of it is based on relationships. And Dom builds the relationships with these young people so that they understand and actually respect what he's saying. Not only does he do that, but he exemplifies it in the way he lives his life. So they have another example to look to. I'll say it, all of those guys, when we just interviewed Dre and you see all of them in photos together, I mean, Isaiah Anderson's out here, you got Dom, you got Willard Jimerson, you got so many amazing people, Proof in the play, so many people, yourself. People have examples, you know, to look up to, and they're like, you know what, they're starting to get it. What I love is exactly what Bobby Stills is talking about, because I think it takes that passion to come from community in order to understand community. So I love that they have that at the forefront of what they do.
Very interesting interview and informative interview that producer Nikki Barron did with Coach Dom, and again, that's going to go up in its entirety later on today across all the platforms. Now we talked about Sean Fuchs yesterday in the event that was kind of right next to Gasworks Park, and how the city blocked off Gasworks Park. They did their event right next door, literally to the park. Sean Fuchs made an appearance on the Fox News channel, and they asked him more about the event, and he kind of compared their protest, he actually called it a protest out there at Gasworks Park, to the protest that was occurring the same day out in Soto.
The city of Seattle accused of discrimination for closing a park ahead of a planned prayer rally. The city says it shut the park down due to, quote, anticipated crowding from the Christian event, despite left-wing protests that continue throughout the city. But the showdown didn't stop the prayer rally, which was held in the street. Let Us Worship rally organizer and founder of Hold the Line, Sean Foyt, joins us now. Hey, Sean, so good to see you again.
Hey.
Good morning.
So good to be with you guys.
Well,
good
we
morning.
Just love what you're doing. I know you're traveling around cities and you're promoting revival instead of riots. But the city of Seattle, what happened over the weekend when you tried to do that in Seattle?
Well, you know, it's so wild because yesterday they had on 4th Avenue in Seattle, they had Antifa rioters throwing mauve cocktails at policemen, and yet the city focused their energy on our peaceful worship and prayer rally in Gasworks Park. They barricaded the whole park. They put fences around it. I don't even know how much tax dollars was wasted on that, and were blocking us out from gathering to worship.
What was their reason? What'd they tell you?
They just said anticipated crowding from an event. I mean, we were the only event that was planned. You know, we were the only rally that was scheduled to be there. So it was obviously a targeting and a discrimination towards believers in this city.
What do you think the real reason is?
I mean, there's just a bias. You know, it's the height of hypocrisy right now that they're letting these cities, succumb to rioting and burning and pillaging, and yet they're targeting Christians.
Yeah, so this is what the city of Seattle said about closing down the park. They said, out of concerns for the safety of all those who visit Gasworks Park, we have opted to close the entire park for the day. Seattle Parks and Recreation does not allow unpermitted public events to take place in Seattle parks and ask the public to continue to adhere to current public health guidelines so that we can keep our parks open. You know, Sean, I know you've traveled around. That was your 21st city. Why are you doing this, and what are the crowds telling you?
Well, by the way, last night it was pretty easy. We just pivoted and we called it a worship protest. So now technically it's legal, and we went to the streets.
All right, so they're crying discrimination. Man, it's a tough one for the city. It isn't too often that you hear me saying like, woe is me for the city and everything. But man, you know what I'm saying? You got the protests side like, man, the police did us wrong. You got the Christians over there, they're like, the police did us wrong. It's like, man, I'm sure Diaz is downtown like, damn.
It's hard to win. It's hard to win right now because there's attacks coming from all sides. And honestly, there's different, again, this is another example of the different perspectives, the wide variety of perspectives that are out there. I don't think comparing it to saying, rioters again, there's been peaceful protests all throughout the city. I think that there's different approaches to that, but there's been mostly peaceful protests.
So, the only issue, I think people should go on as many different media platforms, talk to whoever they want to talk to, whether it's Fox or MSNBC. But I think that we should really be careful with the words that we use. Seattle really only saw like one riot. And that was May 30th, where it was absolute chaos in downtown Seattle from every angle and everything else. Now, in interaction with the police dispersing a crowd or the police saying that something is an unlawful assembly is much different than when someone's saying a riot.
Yeah.
And, unfortunately, during protest season, SPD has called several things a riot. And if the benchmark is May 30th, if that's a riot, then some of this other stuff you wouldn't necessarily call it. And I say that as a member of the media who's been out there, in a lot of these exchanges between the police and the protesters. But when people are on national news, it gives a different kind of connotation. It was actually there. Now, these guys wanted to go and worship. There's people all over America. This is just happening right here in our community. There's all kinds of Christian groups and different groups of people who are gathering. And Seattle's one of the most COVID compliant cities in America. Seattle really is a place where people are like, hey man, want to wear a mask, want to look out. And there's other cities in America where it's not as stringent, right? And I think that the bigger issue here isn't so much that Christians want to gather. The bigger issue is that you have a big population here in Seattle who really want mask on.
Yeah.
And, they really want to follow the guidelines of it. So I don't know if it's really, Christians being discriminated against as opposed to an event where a lot of people intentionally are saying that they're not going to wear masks against the guidance of the local government.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Because it could have been, 500 bicyclists that were over there and say, man, we're bicycles against masks.
Right.
I think we probably would have got the same result. So I think it might not be so much that Christians are being discriminated against, people who aren't wearing masks in large gatherings, or if you're saying discrimination on it. So sometimes you got to unpack the headlines.
Yeah, therein lies the difference, my friend. And we've seen plenty of protests, been a part of plenty of protests where everyone is masked up. I mean, like, that's the thing. And I think that there is a general consensus in Seattle from what I have witnessed and what I've participated in, what I've helped plan. I mean, people are like, no, we even have stations where people can grab masks if they don't have one. There's always people out passing out masks. There's volunteers combing the crowd. Sure. Yeah, definitely. So I feel like you're absolutely right. This is really about masked events versus unmasked events. And I think there are most folks are like, look, we just want to keep people safe. If the one thing we can do is gather with our masks on, try to be socially distant from one another, physically distant, let's do that and follow the guidelines. When you see a crowd that's not following that, it spikes a lot of people's
and one thing that I'll say as well is that in a lot of protests, you have a lot of Christian groups that participate in the protests. You have clergy, you have all kinds of people, preachers, all kinds of, so it isn't rioters versus Christians. Right. You know what I'm saying? Believe me, there's an overlap. You'd be surprised. A lot of people. Sometimes I see people out there at the protest, and then I'll go into a real formal kind of office building downtown. I'd be like, "Is that you?" And they were looking at me. They'd be like, "Man, don't say anything." So believe me, there's a lot of overlap going out here in the streets. Speaking around COVID though, and super spreader events. This next clip right here is from the Seattle Times, and it says here, if Daryl has it up on the screen, Sturgis motorcycle rally linked to more than 265,000 cases of COVID, costing $12 billion. Basically what they're saying is the big rally that was in Sturgis not too long ago. So we found that for counties that had a lot of people going to Sturgis, after the rally, their case numbers started taking off relative to similar places that did not have a lot of people go to Sturgis. So what they did is they tracked cell phones, supposedly anonymous cell phone data to track who was in Sturgis or not. Said 266,796 cases of COVID-19 linked to Sturgis, represent 19% of the 1.4 million new coronavirus cases confirmed in the U.S. Yeah. Wow. And hold on. It's some quote in here. It's like, it says, if this isn't the biggest super spreader event, I don't know what is. Oh, he said the only thing that would come close might be a study done after spring break, but this was not a single event. To my knowledge, this is the largest single super spreading event. I don't know of anything larger. Wow. So, it's this whole thing about COVID, man, is so split and it's so dividing. Here in America. I mean, I know for me personally. I got a science background. I graduated with geology, not a doctor, don't even play one on TV. So, but as a scientist, I think as a scientist's mind. But like for me, I'm more like, I want to be cautious around because of our community members, what I'm saying, our elders. It's a lot of people in our community that are suffering from predispositions and things like that. So for me, it's not even a political thing. It's not even a red or blue thing. It's just like, let me just have best practice, because it's not really gonna impact me either way. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? As to where if I it doesn't matter. What I'm saying, it's like, okay, it's no big deal to wear a mask. And I'm not feeling like, oh, well, Dow Constantine's telling me I need to wear a mask for Governor Inslee. I'm like, man, you know what? Let's see how this plays out. But on the off chance that, everything does transmit the way people are saying, let me just wear this mask,
right.
And so, I don't know, it's not a political issue for me. And, for some people it is. Speaking of political issues, on Monday, we talked about one of our photojournalists that we work with, Chris Rojas. He covered the protest down there in Soto, the Labor Day March to SPOG. And we typically don't like to play other people's footage, and so that's why we waited for Chris's footage right here. So I do want to give a fair warning on this, is that some people in our audience who watch, they've been in a lot of protests, and you hear flashbangs, and you can trigger you. So I just want to make you aware. This is about a 7-minute clip right here of Chris Rojas' coverage during the march to SPOG that occurred on Monday. And again, you will hear some flashbangs, maybe a little bit of profanity, but you will hear some flashbangs in this clip.
Sorry. Hopefully some good embodied stabilization.
Everybody's getting down in this town. Ain't never gonna be the same. 'Cause I settle on my
I'm not even doing shit! I'm not even doing shit! You have to please come on! Please come on! I saw him. Keep it up. I'm not even doing shit. You're pulling my leg back. I'm giving you opportunities to answer these questions because you...
All right, so that was from photojournalist Chris Rojas.
Wow.
Works with us on different projects at Converge. Some of what he saw, of course, condensed down into 8 minutes. He was out there for quite a while. How long was that going on out there? About an hour and a half?
About 2 hours.
About 2 hours. 2 hours out there. So yeah. And also, like I said, if when you talk about these events, the event over there at Gasworks, and the event out here in Soto, some of the descriptions that are going around it is interesting. We'll put it at that.
Very interesting, and honestly, colorful language always being used to describe these things. And what I saw there was a lot of mass protesters. I'll say that. So I love your comparison earlier of whether it's a mass or unmasked event. One thing I will say was that I didn't actually see the police accost any of the worship protesters, right, that were out there praising. They didn't, get dispersed from the area. It looks like they were at least able to have their event, just not inside the park.
Yeah, this is true. So, I mean, like I said, it's, sometimes you got to be able to take a step back and kind of look at these things from a higher perspective. But the saga continues, and so does the show. We're going to take a short break right now. We come back, went downtown yesterday and caught up with Olga, the owner of Piroshky. Piroshky's been around for 28 years in Seattle. And, man, they're struggling downtown. Like, downtown it's not in a good place right now. So we'll take a short break, and we'll be right back with that. And you're watching the Morning Update Show.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, CashApp, or PayPal at Converge Media.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. My name is OMARI Salisbury, joined by the very talented Trey on a Holiday.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Trey Holiday.
Yo, so, Converge is a small business operating in Seattle. So, of course, always have a soft spot when other small businesses reach out. And Olga from Piroshky, owner there, she had made a post on Facebook a few days ago talking about how difficult the business environment is in downtown Seattle. And actually, I saw the post on my brother's page, and she was like making a call for media, like, please, somebody come and share with the world what's going on in downtown. So, Converge, this the whole thing is, to be able to be nimble. So I reached out to her when I saw the Facebook post, and she was like, man, I'd love for you to come down. So went down there to Piroshky on 3rd and Pike yesterday, and it's a big struggle down there all the way around because of COVID and because of rising crime. There's no foot traffic there. No foot traffic is no business. There's over 100 businesses already that have closed in downtown Seattle. Here's a conversation. Really, it's Olga here on tape telling you and really the rest of Seattle what she's facing in downtown.
Piroshky is a Russian bakery. We are bringing Russian traditional pies with a little bit of twist of Northwest, an American accent to people in Seattle. So when we opened here, it was a hit. We were doing absolutely incredible here. People loved us here. We actually were in really good competition with McDonald's next door. People in Seattle really do like and want to support local businesses. But in March of this year, COVID hit. A lot of small businesses have shut down. I'll give you an example today. Today we were open here and our sales were $130 in an entire day. It is, any business owner will tell you, it's unsustainable to run a business with a sales of $130 a day, even to cover, it's not even enough to cover an employee. So while we're still trying to do it, while we're still pushing, a lot of other businesses are done. It is unsustainable to be doing business in downtown Seattle. There are no people, no one wants to bring their family. You see people breaking vodka bottles. It is dangerous place to be, and that's, I think, what city is not realizing, that downtown now is a dangerous place to be. Definitely create services for all the mental illness we have here, for all the homelessness problem, for all the drug issues, and everyone in between. So there's a lot of work that city needs to do. For my employees, my first job is their safety. and their safety is my first priority. As an employer, I cannot provide that right now in downtown Seattle. I cannot provide safety for my own employees. This is your downtown. This is Seattle. This is top 15, 20, cities in the United States. I am myself embarrassed to be walking here. And this is my city. This is a city I want to be proud of. I cannot tell my customers, hey, it's safe, come on over. It isn't. It is not safe. So to support us, please order, online. We do free home deliveries. We do pop-ups all over the city. We do pop-ups in different neighborhoods. So please support us like that until it's finally safe enough for you to come visit us in 3rd and Pike.
So again, Olga, she used to have 13 employees there. Now she's down to 1. And one thing that I've seen, right, is in covering, even just from protests, because protests really brought us out of just covering the Central District and the South End to really covering Capitol Hill and downtown, is we've seen is that a lot of the people were a lot of issues, and we just got to be real with. There's a lot of people. There's a population that has issues. And beyond just homelessness or chronic homelessness, there's a lot of mental health issues and substance abuse or chemical abuse issues. But what happens is they just get swept from one neighborhood to another. And I think you saw this, Bobby, that when COVID first hit, a lot of downtown went up to Capitol Hill. And so you had a lot of that population that went up to Capitol Hill, but then Capitol Hill's been getting swept out and back downtown. Like the problem is never really dealt with, but the end result of it is that so Capitol Hill can still kind of operate because it's a residential neighborhood. People still going to go out, irregardless if there's people sleeping in Cal Anderson or not. They're still going to go out to the coffee shop, taco shop, everything else. There's a population that lives in Capitol Hill. That's not really the case in a lot of parts of downtown Seattle. There is no population that's already sitting there that can go to a lot of these businesses, or if they are, a lot of people are ordering online because they don't want to walk the streets down there. You remember back in March, April, we did a segment down there on 3rd, right, 1 block from Piroshky, because the street looked awful. It was like, man, this is crazy. It just looked totally neglected and everything else. And we ran a segment, and the next day, it was all cleaned up down there. But let's be clear, over 100 businesses downtown Seattle are shuttered, and they're most likely not going to come back. Downtown is literally, on a lifeline. And when you hear somebody like Olga sit here and talk about, like, she really feels like she's going to be next. And she's made an urgent plea, like a lot of businesses in downtown Seattle are making an urgent plea to Mayor Durkin, to the city council, really to anybody that'll listen, because a lot of these businesses, they close their doors, they're not going to return.
Yeah, the thing is, too, is that we understand that COVID has such rippling effects. Literally, there's no workers in the buildings. So all of that, so much of that day foot traffic that comes from all of these businesses being open, all of these high rises being open, people being all the way up on the 50th, 60th floor, these kind of things is shut down. So I feel like downtown core was going to be hit really the hardest immediately when they said, look, folks have to work from home, and we can't have all of these 700 employees or 700 people who normally work in this building. You can't be here. And so honestly, those businesses that cater to the lunch crowd down there, the brunch crowd down there, those are the ones that are going to suffer the most. And then a lot of those utilize a lot of that lunch crowd to supplement their dinners. And so you're seeing a full-on sweep and a wipe. We saw this with Trey Lamont's restaurant down there, trying to keep his employees going, trying to do something that would allow folks to order online or come down and order during lunch. But again, lots of foot traffic is just not there.
Well, yeah, so this is true. So it's two issues, though. One is the COVID issue that's kind of hit, everybody in one way or another. But a lot of what Olga is saying is that, okay, there's COVID, but downtown used to still be a destination. You see what I'm saying? So even the way people have COVID has progressed, there's still destinations that people go to. Clearly, the beach is a destination. People are going there. People are going to Alki. What she's saying is what's compounded the COVID issue is that downtown's not safe. Right? And so, they're just not coming downtown. A lot of people aren't going there because they don't feel safe there. So a lot of people who even might have used to watch a movie, movie theaters, things like that, or just take a walk to the waterfront and places like that, certain areas that are open, they're opting not to come downtown because they don't feel safe downtown. Yeah. And so it's a compounded issue over there. And really at the end of the day, the small businesses are suffering. I'm a small business owner myself. So, I always have my ears up when other small businesses are going through it. So like I said, we'll see what happens. She's not the first person, Piroshky, and Olga is not the first person to bring this up or try to get the mayor, the city council's attention. It'll be really good to hear what's going on in City Hall, if they have a plan or what plans are in action or what they're trying to do. But we also, Converge, we want to put the camera in somebody's face. Let them tell us.
Yeah, and I think what was so great about that segment, honestly, is personalizing the issue. Because sometimes when you're just looking at data, you're looking at numbers, you're thinking about these businesses, you're not always thinking about literally the owner of the business. Let me look at their face. Let me understand their personal issue. And so I love personalizing things as well, because it brings it back to the heart of the matter. Once again, these are not just buildings. These are not just, businesses. There are families that are being supported by these businesses. There are people that have worked their entire lives to build them up. So again, it's a rippling effect, compounding, like you said.
The other thing to keep in mind too, and I don't know everybody's background on the city council. We know that the mayor comes from the federal government, was a prosecutor. But it'd be interesting to see how many people on city council actually have operated businesses, and not things that have gone off of donations, grants, or federal funding or state funding, but have actually been responsible for a profit and loss, have actually been responsible. It's the sweat of their brow to be able to drive business and revenues forward. Because, you have a different perspective when you're the person who's up all night saying, like, man, how am I going to meet this payroll? As opposed to, well, I'm in a government-funded program here. Those funds are going to meet the payroll and everything else. And so you come with a different perspective. If you've ever had to, to meet that P&L, if you've ever had to make those hard decisions and everything else, people who are in leadership decisions, if they haven't gone through that process, it kind of makes you wonder how much empathy do they have for somebody who's actually operating a business and responsible for employees if they've never done it themselves.
Yeah, I love that statement. So true.
Speaking of business and speaking of the Central District, man, yesterday, right across the street over there at Feed Co. Burgers, we got together. Our big thing is everywhere we go, we want to leave. We only got a few coins, by the way. We try to leave a few coins everywhere that we go.
That's right.
We went across the street over there to Feed Co. Burgers, and Chef Francis Fernandez. I already got checked on Doctor and Professor over here by Dr. Abe. So Chef Francis Fernandez greeted the whole team over there, and I guess we had a burger fest, and even Bobby Steels, the real hamburglar, was on the scene. Want to play that clip for us, Daryl?
Called Burger Place. They got the good burgers. They got really good burgers.
And we just got done morning update show. Eric Calligraphy did a great job with I think y'all need your own show. Now we about to go ahead and do the Feed Co. Burgers, right?
Yes. Hey there, everybody. I'm Francis Fernandez, head chef here at Feed Co. Burgers Central. We're here in the CD serving up some great burgers and helping out the community. We got new local art coming in from local artists that we're hanging up around the restaurant.
Hey y'all, over here at the Feed Co today, making sure the crew is well fed. Burgers are juicy and the fries are yummy.
Can I please order the blue onion, medium rare? Yeah, and I'll take one of your fantastic shakes.
How are you? We're making sure we are supporting local businesses today.
Oh, thank you.
I'm with Big O, man. He got us all burgers. I make sure we're good to go.
For burgers.
So basically, you walk right across the street from the Liberty Bank building right over here to Feed Company.
Most definitely. Great burgers.
Do you have a signature burger here?
My signature burger here is going to be our Texicana. It is a 6-ounce patty with bacon, cheese, Cajun fried onions, with barbecue sauce and jalapeno and coleslaw.
So this is the Texan. according to Francis, everything is in this burger. It's beef, jalapenos, coleslaw, man, and a lot of other stuff.
Go see what it do.
All right. Yummy, yummy for the tummy. Good stuff.
You got another burger to munch on.
Cheers. Bobby, what do you think of your burger?
I mean, it's delicious. It's delicious. It's juicy. It's cooked to perfection. And, you know, I appreciate those guys back there working hard during these times.
Let me try it.
Come on by, check us out. Monday, 7 days a week from 11 to 9 p.m. Thanks, y'all.
So the only problem is now is these guys, Daryl and Bobby, and I'm sure you all want to go back across the street today, huh?
So juicy and bomb, man. Shout out to Francis. Shout out to Liz, the co-owners, man. They are killing it over there. And honestly, once again, what I love is that our community businesses, they reach out to community, man. I first met Francis when Francis was like, look, we're accepting donations. Francis came down for Juneteenth with a bunch of French fries, free to everybody. They went and grabbed them up. He's had waters here for our protesters for different events. So again, you know, these businesses, they show love to community too, man. So please get your Feedco burger today.
Yeah, and the best thing is here in the Central District on Union, we've got some pretty good options, and more options are on the way with Chef Christy Brown when her restaurant, when Communion opens here soon as well. So we'll be supporting that. We're going to take a short break right now. When we get back, school is going to be in session because we have Dr. Daudi Abe here. He's the hip-hop professor. You see
Hold up, that's why I'm in my hip-hop, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All for you, you know, shout out to Jigga, you know, Jaws out there with his music. I was like, look, I got to get hip-hop
that's
ready.
the Jaw Jigga shirt?
That's the Jaw Jigga, man, right
okay,
there.
big shout out, Jaw Jigga, big shout out, Be Unique.
You know what I'm saying?
All right.
I'm hip-hopped out for you.
I see. I just tried to go retro. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But Dr. Daudi Abe is on his way up to the set, man, and we're going to take a stroll back down memory lane and talk about Seattle hip-hop and its roots. You are watching the Morning Update Show.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, CashApp, or PayPal at Converge Media.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. I'm your co-host, OMARI Salisbury, and right now I'm very excited. One, because we're in the CD. Two, because I'm joined by a fellow Garfield Bulldog. You see, no matter how many of these levels of funny letters are after your name, you know what I'm saying, it all comes back to the doghouse, Garfield first.
So much talent comes from that place. I mean, you can't help it.
Yeah, the talent's right here. This is Dr. I was about to call you your brother, Dr. Daudi Abe joining us today. I'm kind of throwing it out there, the hip-hop professor, but you do so much more than that. Brought you out here today to talk about two things. We know that you have a book that's coming out in November, Emerald Street, and talking about really the history of hip-hop here in Seattle. And you've also got some education initiatives that are underway. You are a professor at Seattle College.
Seattle Central.
Seattle Central,
yep.
up on Broadway. Let's get right into it, though, because a lot of people, especially now, there's not legacy radio here. Well, there is legacy radio on the AM dial, but when you think of radio here, big radio, iHeartRadio, Cube 93, things like that, there's been a disconnect in big radio all the way back when it was Ackerley and then Clear Channel and things like that with the community. So a lot of people don't tend to think that Seattle has really a long and pretty illustrious hip hop history, and we've actually made some contributions to hip hop culture. So I'll give a few minutes. Let me throw it over to you here, and I know this is what you do professionally in the classroom. Maybe you can kind of set the stage of the genesis around hip hop here in Seattle.
Well, you know, Seattle has a long history of the black community in general, and that existence here kind of helped set the stage for what hip hop would look like once it eventually arrived here. And so we're looking back to the fall of 1979 with the release and arrival of Rapper's Delight by the Sugar Hill Gang. And that first gets here on radio station KYAC, which was 1250 on the dial, which precedes KFOX. And the program director at the time, Robert L. Scott, father of our own Jasmine Scott, was the first one to put Rapper's Delight on the radio when nobody else around town was really trying to do that. So that's 1979. So then you get it to 1980, and that station undergoes an ownership change, and the call letters are switched. And call letters go from KYAC to KKFX, which became informally known as KFOX.
Yep.
And so I think for some people it's a little bit difficult to think about an AM music station because FM, generally speaking, seems to come in a little bit more fully, and if you're talking about songs that have a lot of bass, you know what I'm saying, it picks up a little bit better on FM. But this was AM radio, and at that time, AM radio, if that had the song that you wanted to hear, it didn't matter if it was AM or FM, simply that it was there. So it goes over and becomes KFOX, and a young man who began as an intern at KYAC then gets a job hosting a Sunday evening show. And this young man's name is Ness Rodriguez, who would go by the name Nasty Ness. And so Nasty Ness kicks off Fresh Tracks in 1981, which becomes the first all-rap radio show on the West Coast, west of the Mississippi. And for young kids like us to hear cutting and scratching and mixing on the radio was revolutionary, was something that had never been heard on the radio before. And Ness kind of took directly that influence of people who were doing it in New York, like Jelly Bean Benitez, and the first rap radio show from New York City. I'm blanking on the man's name right now, but you know who I'm talking about. But so anyway, Ness is taking his cue from them and not only playing songs and cuts, but ending the Fresh Tracks show with a 30-minute master mix, which is just a complete combination of mixtape, essentially, 30-minute mixtape that he just throws together and mixes people like Hall & Oates and Egyptian Lover, and he's really pulling from an eclectic kind of selection of music as he makes the ingredients of his master mix. And so that aspect of radio certainly had a massive amount of effect on how everything would develop in the following. Once Ness goes in 1984 and has this seminal meeting with somebody who's become known for throwing these parties at the Boys and Girls Club up there on 19th and Yesler. That man would be Anthony Ray. And when Sir Mix-a-Lot and Ness meet, Ness brings him down to KFOX to start airing his material. And very quickly, Mix-a-Lot becomes the most requested artist on KFOX.
Really? I'm tripping just off the fact that you're talking about 1981, and even before then, and Seattle having the first all hip hop rap show west of the Mississippi. So even before LA, even before San Francisco, everything else.
People would play songs here and there, but a dedicated show, that was Fresh Tracks.
Right, and so a lot of people know Mix, of course, the whole world. But really became a global superstar right here from Seattle. And real organic roots. You talk right there on 19th and Yesler. We're here on Union right now, right? And what's some of the history here on Union? You know, one of the people who watches this show every day is Fred Burwell, is BZ Two Slaps. What's some of the hip-hop history here on Union?
So probably one of the more well-known ones. By the way, you would be surprised how many people do not know that Posse on Broadway is about Seattle. You'd be surprised. I mean,
Really?
you'd be surprised how many people kind of fail to really
coming
listen.
from Seattle, I would think it. Yeah, but you're right.
It's like I said, you would be surprised. But so just kind of referencing that, you have one of the. So if I can just detour on the meaning of Posse on Broadway in terms of like it was Seattle's version, it may be some equivalency of South Bronx by Boogie Down Productions. And by that I mean it was kind of like an identity song. So even if you had never been to South Bronx, you were hearing KRS-One talk about it, it gave you a sense of what it was. Even if you'd never been to Seattle, you could listen to Posse on Broadway and get a sense of what it was. And that song actually really taught me a valuable lesson about the power of hip hop to export culture. So let me give you a quick example. I go down to the Bay Area for college in the fall of 1988. I'm at a party, and nobody's at the dance floor, whatever song's playing. All of a sudden, that song goes off, and the next song comes on, and it's ding, beginning of Posse on Broadway. So now I'm bugging because I'm in California hearing this song. And then everybody else, when they hear the song, is like, ho, hands in the air, and the dance floor is packed. So I'm like, how can this be? This is a song about Seattle, and people outside Seattle love it. So then as I'm down there getting to know people, and they start, hip-hop people who start finding out I'm from Seattle, they start asking me questions like, what's Broadway like? Or, you know, are the burgers at Dick's good?
Right.
And you know what I'm saying? I'm like, how do you even know? But that taught me the lesson about the ability of hip-hop to export aspects of local culture to places that they'd never seen before. Those people wouldn't have known those nuanced details about Seattle without that song. So that really helped crystallize how important it was. You maybe never been to Houston, Texas, but if you listen to the Ghetto Boys, they will give you information
all about Third Ward,
on what it's like in Houston, Texas. You know what I'm saying? So back to your original question, Mix-a-Lot's reference to him making a left at 23rd and Union, and the driver broke a left. But I am kind of most interested in this, in the more recent kind of intersection of local history and hip hop, particularly as it relates to 23rd and Union, and that is the discussion kind of brought up by Dre's with a couple of his songs where
Irony on 23rd,
where the hood ain't the same, and then he follows that up with Irony on 23rd, which is making the point around the fact that for decades, black and brown people have been arrested on this corner for selling the very same thing that now this white-owned dispensary is selling. And there's no lack of irony with regard to, you know what I mean, what that means for people who have lived here for a long time versus what we're seeing now, and how there seems to be a sliding scale and moving of the goalposts, if we want to call it that, with regard to opportunities around things that people who are in this community and from this community have been going to jail for many years.
That's real. Question for you. How big of a role has the DJ played over the years as far as, one, creating the sound, pushing the music, but also in culture creation?
So one thing, so I teach a hip hop class up at Seattle Central, and one thing that a lot of young people really have a little bit of trouble grasping is that in the early times of hip hop, the DJ was the central figure of it all. It was not the MC, it was the DJ. And so that changes a little bit as you get, you know, as we get further into the 1980s, and I suppose record companies start feeling like, well, we can only pay the rapper. We don't have to pay the DJ. So the DJ starts taking a little bit of a backseat, but I think for people who have kind of been in and about the culture, the DJ never really lost that importance. The DJ was still very central to the experience. But so if you're talking about people from here, you're talking about early people like from Emerald Street Boys. Sugar Bear was an early, you know what I'm saying, guy who was putting out mixtapes, putting together mixtapes, and obviously someone like Nasty Ness. But then as you get further kind of into the 1990s, you have someone like Vitamin D, who puts together what's known as the Pharmacy, which is like this basement studio, which throughout much of the 1990s was just pumping out hip-hop album, artist, song after artist, that whole tribal collective, for which what Vitamin did was the entirety of all the engineering, playing instruments, you know what I'm saying, sound design, all of that stuff. So you have someone like Vitamin, and then you have someone like a protege of Vitamin, Jake One. And Jake 1 comes along and, you know, like I said, a vitamin protege who goes on and has had a career where he has been nominated for, I think, a couple of production Grammys. He's worked with all of your favorite rappers, from your Rick Rosses to your De La Souls to your 50 Cents. He was actually even part of the 50 Cent G-Unit money management team, I think it was, the production team that they had kind of in the early 2000s. So just the extension of the DJ moving from simply spinning records to producing and creating music is something that's really part of the legacy. And there's one last point that I would like to make about this, is that for so many young people who grew up in these first and second generations of hip hop, you have just this, and I think it's so underrated, just this massive amount of unformally trained musical talent, if that's really even a word. And by that I'm saying that never really had formal musical training, but just learned by hands-on and figuring out as you go. And I'm not saying that there's no value in music lessons, but I'm also saying that there is value in kind of figuring out as you go. And so people like Vitamin and people like Jake and people like so many others who have that musical ear, people like Supreme, have that musical ear and are able to kind of apply that in a way that belies the fact that they may or may not have had any formal musical training.
Right. Yeah. I was waiting to see if you mentioned Supreme the Rock. Definitely an anchor and an icon. Mm-hmm. So along these lines, and now I want to talk about some of the other things you're doing. Who do you think is one of the biggest contributors to not only Seattle music, but music nationally across America, that the average person, if you leave the state of Washington or if you go to the East Coast or something like that, has probably never heard of, or maybe has kind of heard of, but they've been putting in the work for years?
I think of somebody like, so if I kind of point at kind of a seminal moment, I kind of look back at that meeting between Ness and Mix-a-Lot that leads to Mix going on the radio and then leads to the formation of Nasty Mix Records and all that. If I think about somebody kind of in the next generation after, I think about someone like Jonathan Moore, Jonathan Worsayer Moore. And he was on so many levels. In terms of his involvement, he was an artist. He was a label owner. He was a tour manager. He was, you know what I'm saying? He wore so many hats and did so many different things within kind of the structure of the hip hop community that, you know, if we think about something like the Teen Dance Ordinance, which really, really, really tried to put the smackdown on not just hip hop, but just local youth activities throughout the 1980s and into the 1990s. You have Jay Moore kind of doing counter programming at places like Langston Hughes, and then eventually at places like the Sit and Spin.
Yeah.
And so you have the Sit and Spin where, you know, it got around the Teen Dance Ordinance because it would happen on like afternoons, and it was the interesting place of kind of being in the laundromat. You know what I'm saying? That doubled as a venue. But so opening up a space like that for young people to kind of interact and experience and see live hip hop going down. And it is there, I want to say in 1999, that at one of these Sit and Spin events, that you have a young man named Ben Haggerty making his live stage appearance. And he eventually becomes, you know, we all know as Macklemore. And so I'm just saying that the work that young people have done, people, not just young people, I guess, you know, I mean, we're all about the same age. I think of us as young, but the work that people have done just over the years and the seemingly kind of small events that take place as a result of this work really get the ball rolling into what becomes someone like Macklemore, who, you know, was a massive success and just had incredible amounts of appeal, you know, above things that, you know, we had really ever thought of. But all of it, whatever he does, you can't really tell whether it even happens without that initial experience at Sit and Spin. And so I think just the opportunity and the community-focused nature of that. I talk about Jay Moore, but there's also people like Y King, who opened up the local chapter of the Hip Hop Youth Action Summit. And people like my man King Chasm, founder of 206 Zulu. And there's so much kind of community-focused give back here in the local hip hop community. I mean, I would put what happens here within hip hop in terms of lifting up the youth, up against any other city. Any other city. In terms of the volume and the commitment that happens here, I'd put it up against any other city.
Wow, you know, I'm glad the book doesn't come out until November, because we might just have to do a special with you in Community Voices or something, because I could really sit here and talk Seattle hip hop all day. What else are you doing? So we know, like I said, the book Emerald Streets is coming out in November, and man, if you're telling the story in the book like you're doing right now, it's definitely going to be, you know, a great read. What else keeps you busy? How are you staying connected actually with young people, especially the things that you're into and engage with is constant replenishment of the cultures. What else are you doing?
Well, so I taught kids in the 1990s at Zion Preparatory Academy, and then kind of a transition out of that was entering the University of Washington doctoral program in the College of Education. And there I wrote a dissertation about the disproportionate discipline that black students face in Seattle public schools. And so since that time, I've kind of been going to different schools, different districts, classrooms, working with teachers, working with administrators about what good teaching is and what it looks like, and relationship-based pedagogy and all this stuff that makes a difference in keeping kids in the classroom. Well, within the last couple of years, I've become involved in a partnership that is between Seattle Central College and Seattle Public Schools. It's called the Academy for Rising Educators. And the idea is to generate and cultivate homegrown teachers. 12th graders who are graduating from a Seattle public high school and are eligible for Seattle Promise. Instructional assistants who are working in schools right now and are looking for a path to certification. We're trying to lower as many barriers as we can. Cost, scheduling, flexible scheduling of classes, you know, childcare. You know, this was kind of before all this happened, but these are the things that we're thinking about how to try to lower the barriers. And so we just finished our first cohort. The first cohort started in the fall of 2019. We have cohort number 2 coming in this fall. We'll start online and virtually, but the idea of having groups come in together and kind of build bonds as they take classes together and go through the program is really an important supportive part, because they're working and going to school full time, which is a lot. For anybody that's done it, anybody that's done one knows that one is a lot. When you're trying to do both together, it's really a lot. And so the supportive kind of communal aspect of cohort is a reason why we have that there. And, you know, the other part is we are trying to be intentional about even details like selecting instructors who are going to participate in the program. One thing that kind of, when I first started teaching in higher ed, was how few teachers who teach in higher ed have actually had any real lessons or any classes on how to teach. If you have a master's degree or a PhD, the mastery of knowledge in a specific content area, and being able to communicate that effectively to students are two different things. And so we don't want to just bring anybody in who might just be a biology teacher. We want to bring someone in who is able to think about not only the way that they're going to teach, but also the population that they're working with, some of whom may be bringing some academic trauma to the table, especially if you're talking about students of color who grew up in Seattle proper. We're talking about, at least for black families, we're talking about the research I'm looking at goes back into the 70s. So we're talking about probably 2, 3 maybe generations of black families who have had this intergenerational trauma attached to their experiences in Seattle public schools. And that can manifest itself in a variety of ways as they try to maybe come back to the classroom for the first time after maybe a few years. And so we're trying to be very intentional about how we set it up so that we have instructors who are coming to teach the cohort that model the way that we want the cohort members to teach their children when they finally get their own classrooms.
Right, man, you're staying busy and you're writing books.
I can't believe I get paid for this.
Man, I'm gonna have to step my game up. I need to put a book out, man. Oh man, Dr. Daudi, you gotta make us a promise. Now, when this book is released in November, you gotta come back here.
Tell me when.
Okay, then we're gonna hold it to you. And actually, Bobby Stills over there, you give me a thumbs up. We might want to do a special. We got a platform called Community Voices.
Okay.
I think it'd be real dope. We can expand more about this conversation.
Oh, there's a lot more to talk about.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
On both topics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Platform is yours. We're gonna take a short break right now. When we come back, it's Wellness Wednesday right here on the Morning Update Show.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, CashApp, or PayPal at Converge Media.
Trey.
Yeah.
Is that your phone that's
yeah,
still on over there?
That's my phone. We shut it down. We shut it down.
All right. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
You get lots of comments about your shirt.
Oh, I'm glad because, when you can support the community and just what Dr. Ube was saying, I love it because he's like, look, we're going to be teaching the next generation, bringing them up. And literally, that's how it's been working. You know what I mean? In community, especially in the hip hop community. So I love that. So I felt like, yes, I wore the right shirt today because this is next generation coming up through the ranks. So I love that.
Yeah, no, I got you. It's Wellness Wednesday, and the crew, who went and did this one? Was this you? Oh, Nikki. Okay, producer Nikki Barron went over to Intuitive Bodywork without us. And actually, Intuitive Bodywork, this is the massage, the massage and therapy place. This is the place we've been talking about going to for like a few months because they reached out, right? Like during the Western Barricade, even before CHOP, they're like, man, you guys are getting beat up down there. You need a massage. I still haven't been in for the massage, but I'm coming. I promise. They call me all the time. Omari, when are you gonna come get your massage? It's coming. It's on the schedule. But Wellness Wednesday right here, producer Nikki Barron caught up with Intuitive Bodywork.
Hey everybody, Nikki here, producer of the Wellness Wednesday segment on the Morning Update Show. I wanted to do a little introduction for our next segment. Katie from Intuitive Bodyworks actually reached out to us during the protest and gave our entire team free massages at her Capitol Hill office. Before that, Katie actually was a CD resident where she raised her family as a single mom and had her studio there, which recently had to close due to COVID. Thank you so much for your support, Katie. It really meant a lot to us that you reached out. We appreciate you so much. So tell us a little bit about Intuitive Bodywork.
Yeah, so I started Intuitive Bodywork as a single mom, of a kindergartner. That's kind of why I started doing massage, is I wanted to work like less than 40 hours a week. So I started the company actually in January of 2008 after going to massage school. So this is our 12th year in business. And so we provide medical-based therapeutic massage.
So can you speak a little bit to the benefits of massage?
Yeah, definitely. So there's lots of studies. In fact, Kaiser has done some of the leading studies in the nation on regarding like back pain with massage. So finding it to be more effective than chiro, acupuncture, even like pain meds in reducing pain and inflammation for people. And there's been lots of studies about that as well, of how just even really light, gentle massage, just having that touch is just so beneficial for people to reduce stress and anxieties.
So what changes have you made here in your massage therapy practice to be more COVID safe?
So many. So we were closed for 10 weeks during the stay home order. And during that time, we just really looked into a bunch of research and tried to figure out what kind of was the top of the line procedures that we needed to implement. So I actually brought some things to show you. So we use, all of our therapists wear KN95 masks so that they protect themselves as well as clients. Clients have to wear masks throughout their whole massage. They also wear eye protection, so our therapists wear these and clients wear them face up. And then we do a thorough cleaning between every session with a hospital-grade viricide. We open our windows between every session. We have air purifiers and fans going, so lots of stuff. And then, like you experienced when you got here, temp check, symptom checks, and if you have a known exposure or symptoms, obviously we can't treat you.
So are you offering any discounts or deals for BIPOC or people who are involved in the protest or?
Yeah, so originally I had posted a couple of different places that we wanted to donate like 10 hours of massage to people that had experienced either trauma during the protests or just trauma in life, being a person of color in the city. And so I think we've worked through about 6 hours of that. So we do still have an additional 4 hours that we wanted to donate. And then I'm happy to double that. So we'd have like 14 hours that we want to donate. So yeah.
And what's the best way that somebody can book a massage with you or your therapist?
So all of our scheduling is done online, and all of our therapists have bios on our website too. So it's just intuitive-bodywork.com. It was great for you guys to come out here. We really are so impressed and supportive of Converge. So,
thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, they got me. I'm going for the massage.
Yeah. You and me both, baby.
We'll work it out. Hey, man, what a fantastic show today, man. It's just a great energy being here in the CD where it started for both of us. Big shout out to Dr. Daudi Abe. You know, looking forward to have him on the show again before his book Emerald Street comes out in November. And I think we need to do a special with him.
Oh, absolutely, because I need to get in on that discussion, man. It was so good. I was watching the entire time, and I'm like, man, he is spitting facts. And really, it was just like so much of my childhood, our upbringing, you know, the stuff he was talking about, all the people that he was mentioning. I'm like, man, I know them. I know them. I love that.
When I talk to him again, I want to ask him what role had the KNHC play in the early days as well, you know. I mean, because you had K-Fox, and then it was like, it's amazing, like high school radio stations, and then also in the history, Mercer, I forget the name of Mercer Island station.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Yeah,
X104, that was a big one.
So it was like hip hop, man. It got pushed out of so many different places that you'd find it. KNHC, X104, Mercer Island. Like Mercer Island had Mercer Island High School, right? Had like the hottest hip hop station in the whole area, man, for a few years. Like, man, you had to go see Patrick out there at X104, you know, and take him your record. So Mercer Island High School could play your record, man, and guys is out there flyering and everything. I mean, it's such an amazing story, the history of hip hop in Seattle. Went long today, but it was well worth the cost.
Absolutely.
You ready to get out of here?
Let's do it.
All right, so we're back tomorrow at 11 a.m. and guess where we're at tomorrow, Trana?
Oh, snap.
Get out. Get out the Bulldog House. If you ain't a dog. Tomorrow we're coming to you from James A. Garfield High School. Broadcasting live from the Dog House. It's Throwback Thursday. You don't want to miss that. Until tomorrow, peace and love.
Every voice and sing, dealer than heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the rising sun of a new day.